Hey, everybody. My name is Paula Sturm. I'm a registered dietitian and a functional medical nutritionist, and my focus is on autoimmune conditions, gut health, and hormone balance. And I'm here today with my colleague, Jolene. Jolene, I'll have you introduce yourself
Hi,
too.
everyone. I'm Jolene Trier. I'm a naturopathic doctor. I studied at Bastyr in San Diego. Um, my focuses are really hormone health, gut health, brain health, thyroid health, um, really everything. But autoimmune, all those things that I listed are my main focuses, along with diabetes as well.
Yeah, Jolene and I used to work in a diabetes clinic in San Diego, a functional medical diabetic clinic. So we have a lot of blood sugar experience, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, how about we dive in on blood sugar balance? We'll talk about how managing your blood sugar without diabetes, with diabetes, everything that we need to know and that goes into managing your blood sugar. So, I'll let you start off, Jolene. Where do you want to still talk? You're still working in the clinic, so you see this constantly every day still. So what are you noticing right now as far as blood sugar goes that would benefit people to know?
Okay, yeah, there's so much to talk about. I don't really know where to start, but I see a lot of diabetics, and I would say most of them come into the clinic and they tell me that they maybe have 1 to 2 meals a day, maybe some snacks, but really just one main meal a day, which really shocked me when I started working there. And I'm sure you've seen that too. And labs too really helped me to determine like what was going on. So what happens is that when you don't eat consistently throughout the day, your blood sugar drops, and then own internal system, your adrenal glands, release a hormone called cortisol, which raises your blood sugar on its own without even eating. And sometimes I've seen, based upon some of the people that we see, they record their blood sugars, so we get to see really what happens throughout the day. And so, like, if they don't eat, their blood sugars sometimes go up, especially like before bed. Their blood sugars are maybe like 150. And then in the morning, what happens is that their blood sugars go up even more. And that's because during the night, when you're not eating, the cortisol starts to rise, but because blood sugars are low. And then in the morning, blood sugars go up a lot. And so that was one of the main things that I really started to see in the beginning. People were always asking me, what's going on? Because it really, they were thinking it was going to be low. But based on their saliva test, their cortisol at nighttime, even around midnight, was like sky high, because most of them are following the train of the intermittent fasters. So they're cutting off their eating times at like 6 o'clock. And then based upon their saliva test, their cortisol is like off the chart sometimes. And then that's really raising their cortisol, especially in the morning. So what I recommend a lot of the diabetic patients to do is to eat consistently throughout the day, and especially have a snack before bed. It's a little tricky too to sort of figure out what type of snack you need before bed. You don't want too many carbs, you don't want too little carbs, but it's the carbs that inhibit the cortisol. So I hear a lot too, like I'll see so many videos on like Instagram or TikTok talking about how you shouldn't have a snack before bed because it helps with sleep. Some people, I feel like that might be true, but for 90% of the people that come into the clinic, they need to have a snack. It's that one snack before bed that really helps to set the tone for the cortisol the next day. So the snack before bed should really be like a little bit of carbohydrates, complex carbs. I would say like a fourth of a cup or so of like sweet potatoes and yams and beans, peas, hummus, along with some fiber. So like celery or carrots, protein. So like a slice of turkey or ham or chicken, and then some sort of healthy fat. And that would be like hummus sort of falls into certain categories. It has some healthy fats, some protein, some fiber. But you want four things. You want carbs, protein, fat, and fiber, all those together. So like somewhat of a mini meal, and it all really depends on your cortisol test. So if the cortisol is really, really high before bed at midnight, it requires like a bigger meal with a little bit more carbohydrates. It's not too much. You don't really have to have too much of a snack before bed, but that snack is like one of the things that I recommend the most to people to really help with their adrenal glands.
Yeah. And their sleep. I find people wake up in the middle of the night and they think, oh, well, I just have to wake up to pee. It's, well, your body actually has a way of shutting off that sensation. It's the drop in your blood sugar that usually is what wakes you up. So yeah, if your blood sugar isn't stable throughout the day, and then you have had this long period of time where you haven't eaten, blood sugar crashes, and then that's a danger response. So your body's going to send a signal for you to wake up. It's going to raise your cortisol to get that more blood sugar into your bloodstream. That sugar into your bloodstream. So you have that fuel, because your brain needs those carbs in order to function, and you can't have too low of a blood sugar. So if you have diabetes and you have mismanaged, stress response or HPA axis or adrenal issues, cortisol issues, yeah, if you're going to have those issues, it's going to be really hard to sleep well at night unless you can balance that blood sugar before you go to bed. So your body has something there, so it's not in danger response. So you can sleep better. Sleep is going to help with your cortisol and managing that better and get your stress levels down. Because if you're not sleeping, there's no way your body can heal.
Right. Yep. I hear that all the time. The waking up, the light sleepers, sometimes they fall asleep easily, but then they're light sleepers. They wake up like a couple hours later, 2-3 o'clock. And then they're like, oh, is that why? Like I go to the kitchen and I get something to eat. I'm like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the more we work on getting in that snack before bed, the more that they fall asleep easier. They get deep, restful sleep. They feel better. Their blood sugars come down.
Yeah.
And then resistance goes away. Because that's really where, like with diabetes, what we really like to focus on is getting the cortisol down. I know it's a matter of decreasing the sugars, because you don't want too many sugars. That messes with insulin, and cortisol is also released down the road. But working on getting the cortisol down is what we really want, because cortisol does two things. It increases your blood sugar and it causes insulin resistance. So that's what we don't want, the insulin resistance.
Yeah.
So yeah, eating consistently throughout the day is what we see with diabetics that works the most. Eating actually more frequently throughout the day to bring down the cortisol, because those people that are diabetic, for whatever reason, their adrenal glands are just really overactive. So even if they don't have like even a snack throughout the day, their cortisol just shoots up. And I hear it a lot too. I hear, well, isn't that going to stress your pancreas? And isn't that going to cause more insulin release? If it's the right foods, if you're getting like protein and vegetables and healthy fats, a little bit of carbohydrates, no, it won't. When you're having meals that are big and just one big meal a day, that's really going to stress your pancreas out. It's going to increase the insulin, then your blood sugars are going to drop really fast, and then cortisol is released. And that's going to raise your blood sugars even more and then cause the insulin resistance.
Yeah.
Really try to focus on not skipping meals, especially for those people. It's not for everyone, but getting in the main meals, and then protein is another really, really important part that not a lot of people are doing. So we recommend about like 20 grams of animal-based protein versus vegetable-based. And that's really for the essential amino acids in the animal proteins. You can do it
per meal, right? 20, yeah.
Per meal, yeah. And really that's the minimum for like a 120-pound lady. We really want you to get a half of your body weight in grams of protein per day. If you're like exercising, working out, you need about a gram to sometimes even a little bit more per pound of body weight per day, which in some people is a lot. It's really, really a lot. So we like to really spread out the protein intake per day if it is quite a bit for you. But 20 grams is really the minimum. And for diabetics, they're really not getting a lot of protein in too. And just to get the 20 grams is a lot for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I see a lot of low protein, high carbs, lots of fruit, everybody gears towards those things. And it's always where's your color? Where's your protein? That's the constant thing I'm always saying to my people is, where's your protein? Where's your color? Want to see that sort of thing. And yeah, when they add, especially I've noticed a lot of women in my practice who skip breakfast, and it seems like, oh, I'm dragging in the afternoon. And these are people that don't have diabetes. So these are just people that I see in my practice who have just energy or hormone issues or autoimmune conditions, or they're struggling to lose weight. And they've seemed to try everything. And so they skip breakfast because they're not hungry. And then they just seem to be on this roller coaster trying to catch up, and they can't. And then all of a sudden at dinner time, they're super hungry, or they eat a whole bunch after dinner. And it's like, okay, let's switch that, because now you're waking up not hungry because you've eaten so much at night. Your body can't quite digest all of that at the same time. And so it's just kind of sitting there. So when you wake up in the morning, it's like, I'm really not hungry, but your body's not ready to digest food then. It wants to digest food in the morning. And so yeah, really switching that habit around, eating a good solid breakfast that has the protein that people miss in the morning all the time. And I notice when people have a protein rich breakfast in the morning, it just sets their whole day up. They have less cravings. They're not overeating at dinner time. They're not eating after dinner. They're not reaching for some snack because their energy is low in the mid afternoon. It's crazy how much breakfast just changes the whole picture. Do you notice the same thing?
Oh yeah, definitely. I totally agree. Even for myself, I notice it. I always tell my patients, because I always thought that I was eating enough protein throughout the day. And then my husband, who's a bodybuilder, he eats like 5-6 meals a day, like 5 ounces each meal. So it was sort of changed my mindset. And I was like, okay, maybe I need a little bit more protein. And just to get the 20 grams 3 times a day, it really changes your appetite. Like if I miss breakfast with protein or lunch with protein, I know for a fact at the end of the day when I get out of work, all I'm thinking about is sugar and chips, and it's just horrible. But when I get in the protein and maybe extra protein, like with my snacks, all those cravings just naturally go away. And it's a night and day difference. So I always tell my patients that, and for them, it's the same way. It's a little bit hard to get them to eat the protein, but once they do, they just notice a huge difference. And then going back to in the morning, not feeling hungry, I also have noticed with a lot of people, especially the ones on their saliva test where their cortisol is just through the roof in the morning, I realized that they always say that they're not hungry. And I was like, that's so interesting. And it's because the cortisol is raising your blood sugar. And we see it too, like, because they always write down the blood sugars in the morning, the diabetic patients, and they're like through the roof. Mm-hmm. They're like 150, 200, 250 sometimes. They're just like, wow, that's a lot of sugar. And your brain is actually getting that sugar too. I know that there's some insulin resistance going on, but their brain is being fed because the cortisol is so high and the blood sugars are so high. So they're like, I'm not hungry. So in order to really change that, to have the cortisol a little bit lower in the morning, that's why the snack is so important before bed, to really reset the cortisol in the morning so that the blood sugars don't dip too low at night, so that the cortisol doesn't shoot up sometimes in the morning and raise the blood sugar so high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how it's down with diabetics. Eating consistently, really getting that protein in, and vegetables, healthy fats too. And all those can be a little bit difficult. And also food sensitivities as well, which makes a huge difference. I had a patient, he was on a ketogenic diet and very low sugars, you would think, but his A1C was actually elevated, probably due to stress in his life and probably not eating consistently too. But I was asking him about his diet, what he was eating, and he was eating like all eggs and all dairy. He didn't want to do a food sensitivity test, which was so unfortunate because I'm pretty sure he had a lot of food sensitivities, because we do see a lot of those, and you've probably seen them a lot too. But the egg and the dairy allergies sometimes are just off the charts for some people. And sometimes it's just a matter of getting those out of the diet to decrease the inflammation in the body, because inflammation and cortisol are so highly correlated, because cortisol is a hormone that's very anti-inflammatory. That's why they give like prednisone, which is a steroid cortisol, to decrease inflammation in the body. And that there's a side effect with those medications. It causes insulin resistance, and diabetes is one of those things that it can cause in the future, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. But anything that's inflammatory in the diet, anything that you're reacting to, can increase your cortisol because it is anti-inflammatory and it helps heal whatever is inflamed in the body. So sometimes it's just a matter of getting those foods out for a little bit, decreasing your inflammatory load so that your adrenals aren't on like high alert, you know, and that the body can repair. And that actually brings down the sugars a lot too, we see. So that's probably what's going on with him a little bit. He was having eggs all the time and dairy, and I think he needed to take that out for a little while. But I see that a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's a stress on the body. When you have a food sensitivity, it's just a constant irritation. It's a stress. Your body has to react to that. And it's not, we all oftentimes think of, oh, I'm stressed from the outside world, like my job, paying the bills, running the kids around. Those are all stressful events, but stress can come internally too. Food sensitivities, any dysbiosis or imbalances in your gut is a stress on your body. If you're dealing with a pathogen in your gut, that's a stress on your body. All of those things are going to take a toll on that whole hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis, which is what is involved in seeing that cortisol on a saliva test. When you see it elevated or depressed, you know that there's some sort of stress coming from the environment or internally that's creating that. So it's like a chicken and an egg, sometimes it's a perpetuating cycle. It's blood sugar is off, which is a stress on your body. And that just perpetuates that whole cycle, which then makes more issues with your blood sugar. And you really have to find the thing that comes in and breaks the cycle. It's remove the sensitivities, fix what's going on in your gut, get your sleep, eat correctly. So you're not eating a ton of carbs at night. Like it's, we say like a lot of people at night will gravitate towards sugar and popcorn and wine, all of those things that are inflammatory for a lot of people and create just an overabundance of sugar, and they're really easy to eat and we don't get full on those things. We need something at night that's more balanced, the protein, the fiber, the healthy fats in a small amount that keeps our blood sugar stable through the night, not those other things that are just quick carbs, alcohol that we have to detoxify. Those types of things at night are what really is going to throw you off. So a lot of people are saying, well, you can't eat at night, and in certain circumstances, like if somebody has some dysbiosis or some SIBO going on, yeah, there might be room for, all right, we need to make sure that you have enough time for your body to clean and clear, but that's something completely different. That's a completely different topic. So you're not struggling with that, or if you are struggling more with your blood sugar and with balancing your cortisol levels, you probably do need something that keeps you more stable at night.
Right. Yep. I definitely agree. Yeah, it's not all the time that we see like a normal cortisol at night, but I would say it's about like 18 out of 20 people have an elevated cortisol at night, and they really need that. And it's so disheartening to hear everyone talk about like, oh, I thought I wasn't supposed to have a snack before bed. I thought it was good for me to stop eating after 6 o'clock. Well, that's not the case for everyone. Right. And I see it a lot too in women, especially with their hormones. There's this thing about, adrenal glands and hormones, and they really are interconnected. The precursor to cortisol is progesterone. And progesterone is that hormone. It's the calming hormone. It helps you sleep at night, helps you to lose weight, it helps your thyroid to work better, helps with the thyroid receptor to work better too. It's just a really great all-around hormone. And so if you're constantly, your adrenal glands are putting out cortisol all the time, whether it's environmental stress, it's, family stress, work stress, It's whatever you're ingesting in your body. And another important one is dehydration too. I see it a lot. Dehydration is one of the biggest stressors to the body. So like if someone's only drinking like a couple of cups of water a day and they're thinking that's okay, that's probably their cortisol is probably, the baseline is probably elevated due to that. So we always have to focus on number one, eating consistently. Number two, water. They're basically equal. Yeah. But going back to hormones, the precursor to cortisol is progesterone. So if you want to help balance out your hormones for women, best thing that you can do, I know you can't change environmental stress, work stress, stuff like that, but eating consistently throughout the day, getting in that protein, not drinking coffee on an empty stomach and going to the gym at like 5 a.m. in the morning. Because I hear that a lot, and 100% of those people have low progesterone, like almost zero. So we can like give herbs for that. We can even give like bioidentical hormone creams of progesterone, but I don't see it working unless those foundational factors are in place. So if someone's still going to the gym, empty stomach, drinking coffee, the progesterone when we retest them later on is still zero. So diet and lifestyle really make a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, that foundation has to be set in place. If it's not, you can't supplement yourself out of anything if your nutrition isn't on point, your sleep isn't on point, and your stress management. Like you said, you can't change some of the stressors around, but you can change how you react to a lot of those things. So learning those stress management techniques are really important. But yeah, if those foundational pieces aren't met, then yeah, any amount of supplements or bioidentical creams isn't going to do anything.
Right. I totally agree. Yeah. And that's just one hormone. There's other hormones too, like DHEA, which is, I do want to go into that as well. We run comprehensive saliva tests, which go over cortisol, it goes over DHEA too, and all the other adrenal hormones and sex hormones. But typically, so if someone has like a higher cortisol throughout the day and they're acutely stressed, the DHEA goes up. And so also I see DHEA really high in individuals with PCOS, and almost all the time they're having a lot of sugars in their diet. So insulin is really big stimulator of DHEA and testosterone. So we always have to look at that with elevated DHEA. But typically if someone is like stressing out their adrenals all the time, the DHEA tends to decrease over time. And DHEA is that anabolic hormone. It's the precursor to testosterone and estrogen. So once again, you know, blood sugars are highly correlated with sex hormones. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So just by changing your diet alone, low sugars, not too low either, because I also see problems with too low sugars, especially like those ketogenic people. I was one of them in medical school. I was like totally ketogenic because it really helped with my brain function. It helps me to get through medical school. But I had other stuff going on. I probably had like SIBO and other things going on. But it really tanked my hormones, especially my progesterone. So like if even like a diabetic goes super, super low carb, what happens is that their cortisol starts to go up a lot too. So there's a fine line of certain amounts of carbohydrates in the diet. So sometimes we recommend like a little bit with breakfast, a little bit with dinner, but really focusing on a lot of vegetables, good quality meat products too, and healthy fats spread throughout the day as well. That's what we see works the most.
I agree.
For really diabetics and non-diabetics too.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that formula, honestly. I was going to say something too, and I totally forgot. It was along the lines of something with everything you were just talking about, but maybe it'll come back to me. But was there anything else you wanted to talk about with the whole DHEA?
Yeah. There was something that did come to my mind. It was because I deal with a lot of people that have like hormone issues as well. And number one, whenever it comes to hormones, you always want to look at your cholesterol.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, God. Yeah.
to all of your sex hormones. So if your cholesterol is below 150, your body is going to have a hard time making your sex hormones. And I see this so much, especially with individuals on statin medications. I know some people they need to be on it, but I've seen a lot of mismanagement when it comes to statin medications. Even if someone's cholesterol is actually low on labs, a doctor will still want patients to be on cholesterol medications to lower it, which is absolutely insane in my opinion. But a lot of mismanagement, and sometimes people even come in with all these symptoms, and 100% of their symptoms are due to statin medications, because your body doesn't like even low normal cholesterol. Cholesterol is needed for so many things in the body, and typically what we see with that is like the aches, the joint pains are the ones that typically start first. But statins deplete the CoQ10, which is so needed for like energy production. And a huge percentage of your brain is made of cholesterol. And your body likes to keep a tight regulation of cholesterol in the bloodstream. So if it's not there, it will pull from your places like your brain.
I see. Yeah, a lot of people have brain fog, or their mood is really impacted when their cholesterol is low. So yeah, I see that all the time. And yeah, low hormone status when they have low cholesterol as well. So yeah, I totally agree. You need to have that cholesterol, and people are so freaked out. Oh my God, that has cholesterol in it. Or, oh my gosh, my cholesterol is too high. Well, isn't it good that I have low cholesterol? It's like, no, it isn't, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh, the videos that we can make about what people say from their
Yeah. I know what I was going to say. Oop, go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
I was going to say about the carbs when you were talking about hormones, and women, especially if they're eating too low carb or on keto, that really, or fasting too much, that really affects their thyroid. They just cannot make the conversion to that inactive thyroid hormone, the T4, into the active, the T3. So if you're not getting enough carbohydrates in your diet, or you're fasting too much, you're going to have a problem there. And especially people, I see a lot of people coming in, they're like, oh, well, I'm fasting to lose weight, but I'm not losing any weight. Yeah. And especially if they have any borderline thyroid issues, it's going to fail every time.
It's so interesting. Yeah, I saw someone just the other day. He was the ketogenic guy. His thyroid was totally off. So yes, I totally agree with you there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, were you going to say something back on the cholesterol, brain health? We're jumping all over the place, but it's totally fine.
Sorry. I was just, you were talking about the statins and stuff like that, and just brought me back to low blood pressure too, about how I always ask people, what is your blood pressure? Sometimes I take it in the office, but they always tell me like, oh, it's normal. And the people that I suspect low blood pressure, I'm like, but what is it? And they always say like under 100, which I always see issues with people with their blood sugar or their blood pressure being under 100, and me being one of them. I probably was anemic back in the day. My blood pressure was always on the lower end of normal, and I had all the symptoms of like brain fog, couldn't think, nothing would work in my body, because with low blood pressure, nothing really works as well. Just think about it, low blood pressure to your organs, it's not going to get enough nutrients. It's just not going to work optimally. Especially your brain is above your heart. So it's going to be hard for that blood pressure to pump to your heart. So we see a lot of that brain fog, and it just clears up once we get the blood pressure up, which brings me to overhydration too. I see that all the time. People will be drinking so much water and they'll have headaches, and they're just like, but I'm drinking so much water, but you're depleting yourself of your electrolytes and making your blood pressure even worse.
Yeah.
Just fix the blood pressure, and really 120 over 80 is optimal. So in my opinion, anything lower than that or higher than that isn't going to be optimal. Some people, their blood pressure is like 105 over like 70. That's not optimal. 120 over 80 is optimal, So I hear that a lot. I just wanted to address that because it frustrates me so much, because I see a lot of people hurting from low blood pressure, not even knowing being undiagnosed like myself and going on for years thinking it was normal when it's not. And just by that alone, it changes so much in your life.
Mhm. Yeah, I was one of those people too. Yeah, really low blood pressure. I fainted a few times. Like my electrolytes, my sodium, potassium were all really off. So I totally get that, especially when my adrenals and my whole stress response just was not optimal. I was all sorts of a mess. So yeah, I understand the whole conundrum that all of this creates in so many people. And we've seen so many people in these conundrums. And yeah, it's important to get people on the right track.
Right. Yes. So much to go into with blood pressure and yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, and cortisol.
Yeah. Well, luckily, we're going to do more. We'll be talking more, doing more education, unraveling a lot of these issues. So I look forward to doing more of these with you, Jolene. So hopefully we can keep a consistent schedule.
Yes, that sounds great.
Yeah. Well, I think we covered a lot today, so I'm excited to share this with everybody. But is there anything that you want to finish with or give anybody your information where they can find you?
Um, my Instagram, I believe it's Dr. Jolene Yunin.nmd, or you can email me at Dr. Trier. I just got married in January, so I haven't changed everything yet. But it's drtrear@gmail.com.
Awesome. And you can reach me. I'm Paula Sturm. You can reach me at my website, www.radicallynourished.com, or you can go on to Facebook, Radically Nourished, or Instagram, radically_nourished is where you can find me. And yeah, reach out to us if you have any questions or if you want to work with either of us. We'd be happy to talk with you more. But it was exciting talking with you, Jolene. And until next time.
Bye-bye.